next speaker is Mike, and just like Beverly, Mike volunteered to speak last minute since there was a building spot. The speech purpose is to stimulate or inspire. The speech title, preparation, since it's not prepared. Speech time, 5 to 7 minutes. This is from the Competent Communicator Program project for how to say it. And Mike doesn't have introduction since, like I said earlier, he volunteered last minute, so he would like to be introduced as Mike. Let's please give him.
Thank you, Madam, or Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome, distinguished guest. This is an unprepared speech, so I titled it Preparation because I thought it would be powerful in its irony. I don't know if anyone noticed that I was absent for the last couple weeks.
No, we didn't.
But I told myself before I joined Toastmasters that I would only miss for a good reason, or maybe a couple good reasons. One, if I did the same thing in a different setting elsewhere, or I exercised the same muscle in a different way. So 2 Fridays ago, I actually had to prepare the Thursday night before because I got 48 hours notice that I was a finalist for the CBS Writers Development Program. Here's the thing. I got to this point 4 years ago, and I totally blew the meeting because I was so unprepared at that point in my career. And in the preparation, in like the mad dash to prepare for this interview, I thought to myself, maybe it's owing too much to my own ego, but I'm thinking to myself, they've got to remember. And if they do, they're probably going to ask, why do you think you didn't make it last time? And of course, the first question was, so Michael, why do you think you didn't make it in last time? And I just thought, okay, you know what, I'm going to be as authentic as I can be. And I remember distinctly going into that meeting so unprepared. I don't know what I was thinking really, but maybe I thought, hey, if I just go in really loose and impromptu, then I'll think on my feet, it'll look really natural, and I'll impress them with how really spontaneous I am. And obviously that totally didn't work in my favor. And I remember telling them, this is 2 Fridays ago, I said, I was so unprepared and green going into that meeting, I probably either acted one of 2 ways. I was either super unprepared and you thought that I didn't care, or in my attempt to hide the nervousness, I came off as overconfident and arrogant. And she called me up, she said, it is the latter. I was like, wow. So, but then I actually had what I think was one of my best meetings, or interviews, call it what you will. And I told her, lady's name was Carol. I said, Carol, that rejection 4 years ago was actually a really benevolent thing that happened in my life. Because at the time I was working this dead-end job. You get trapped in these jobs that are kind of like the golden handcuffs. They're low-stress jobs that are on the periphery of what you always dreamed of doing, but they're not quite what you want to do. And so you can delude yourself into thinking that you're working at your purpose, but you're really not. You're making enough money so that it doesn't seem like you're sacrificing yourself and your brain or your intellect, whatever. But when I got that rejection, it hurt, it was crushing. I gained 10 pounds, I got super fat, and I think for a whole week all I could think about was that meeting. I was living in the past. But I realized that I needed to change my preparation. I needed to change the way I focused on my goal. I had to make myself 100% about the process of becoming a writer. And I wasn't doing that in my current job, which was working in production, which is a fantastic place if you want to be in production. But if you want to be a writer, you have to try somehow to get onto the writing side. And I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying what some people call trying adjacent, which is where you're doing the bare minimum so that you don't feel guilty about not trying. So I quit my job at Disney Channel And then I was unemployed, which seems like the most counterproductive, counterintuitive thing to do if you're trying to try harder. But like your speech, I just remember that very vividly. Sometimes you have to make yourself all about this and not be distracted, even if that distraction is a job. And so the last 4 years, they've seriously gone by in the blink of an eye. But now I sort of freely admit that I made some wrong decisions. And being unprepared, going into a meeting completely cold, is no way to prepare for anything. And in fact, I think that over-preparing is actually kind of a virtue. I think there's kind of a practice skill now that I've learned by virtue of being here and what it takes to put on a good speech. Now sometimes you can't put on a really excellent off-the-cuff speech that looks like it's been prepared for hours, but I can't do that yet. I'm not at that level. And so for me to go into an interview or a meeting, I really have to run through pages of anecdotes and rehearse in front of the mirror. I have to really just take on a lot of hours and dedicate myself to just talking out loud, getting my vocal tonality right, and getting the cadence of my speech correct. In order for me to have a successful meeting or a speech, I really have to put in an embarrassing amount of work, I feel. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, when I left that meeting 2 Fridays ago, I could look myself in the mirror and say, I had a good meeting. And it was because I over-prepared. But then, like I said, sometimes you have to do a lot more work than you're really, willing to get out of it. Because what do you get out of a good interview? You don't take anything tangible with you. So if anything, you better be able to just make sure you can stare yourself in the mirror and say, I did well. And if you did well, it's probably because you put the time in, you dedicated yourself to the process, and you put